This video is brought to you by Gamersubs. Use code MHB at checkout for 10% off your next order. Subscription services, the way to save so much money and consume so much content in return. At least that's what it could be, but more often than not, it's just a monthly expense you barely use. For me, that subscription is PS Plus. At most, I've played 5 or 6 games through PS Plus Deluxe, and yet just the thought that I might play some of these games one day has meant that I've been subscribed for at least 2 years now. Mind you, the Australian PS Plus Deluxe or Premium is not the same as around the world. We don't get PS3 games we can stream to our console, it's just the downloadable stuff. So in my mind, I've essentially wasted $400 over the past couple of years, and so it got me thinking, let's finally get my money's worth. For the month of January, I was going to see how many games in the PS Plus Deluxe library I could platinum and see how much money in total I could save in the process. Which, as I'm saying that last part, makes this sound like this is an ad or something sponsored. Look how much money you can save with PS Plus type of deal. It's not that, trust me. Just figured this would be a fun video to try and get my money back and after the month is over, finally downgrade my subscription. Now with these types of challenges, you have to have rules and goals. You have the basics like all games had to be from scratch, no trophies unlocked before starting this challenge. If I started a game and unlocked a trophy, I had to get the platinum. And lastly, no shovelware games, and by shovelware I mean the jumping and petting type games. Games that solely exist to prey on platinum addicts, which aren't really on PS Plus to begin with, but just a good rule to have regardless. Those are the basic rules, but I also wanted to add in a few more unique ones to spice up this challenge. For instance, I can only platinum one game per series, no stacking platinums, whether that's for a game I've already platinumed before this challenge or during, just simply no doubling up. I had to platinum a PS1, PS2 and PSP game, and lastly, I had to platinum one of the 3 monthly PS Plus games of January. So that's the rules of this challenge, but what's my goal? This isn't a 30 platinums in 30 days challenge where the goal is obvious. What am I aiming to achieve here? The goals are where this is genuinely a challenge. I want to see if people can beat my results here. So my goal for this challenge was at a bare minimum unlock 10 platinum trophies and for those games to equal more than $393.90. That's Australian dollars if you couldn't tell by my voice. 10 platinums is a platinum every few days, which I think is just a good number to aim for, and $393 is just 2 years worth of PS Plus Deluxe. Basically, how this is going to work is if I platinum a game, I look at how much the game is worth on the PlayStation Store at full price, and in the end we'll tally up each game I platinumed to see how much money we saved in total. So in short, the goal of this challenge is to platinum as many games as you can while also saving as much money as you can. It's a balance, as the more expensive games are often going to take more time to platinum, but are worth more money on the total. Anyway, with the rules and goals set, on the 1st of January 2025, the challenge began. Now this isn't my first rodeo, I'm no stranger to monthly platinum challenges, and because of that I knew I had to come out swinging. For one reason that will become obvious later in the video, but also with these monthly challenges the days can start getting away from you and quickly. Because of that I started this challenge by finally playing and platinuming Coffee Talk. Coffee Talk was a game I actually played a little bit of when editing my 30 platinums in 30 days challenge video, but didn't fully get into it at the time. I did always want to get back to it though, so when I saw it, I immediately knew I wanted to start this challenge with it. I knew it was a straightforward platinum, it wasn't going to take too much time, and honestly, it looked like a chill time. The gameplay is simply listening to the various characters' problems and making them a cup of coffee when they ask. That's it. There's no dialogue options to speak of, just listening and enjoying the stories, and you know what? I really enjoyed this game. I don't think it's perfect, I think some of the characters are plain unlikable and some of the themes are written like baby's first racism talk, but overall, I enjoyed the setting and simplicity while experiencing these characters' lives. The platinum mostly involves just not messing up anyone's drink order in the story and making some coffees in a challenge mode, and that's about it. A very chill game, not very long and perfect to get us on the board nice and quick. Oh, thank God. Barista Guru. Serve 50 correct drinks in a single session of challenge mode. And coffee and chill. That's Coffee Talks Platinum. Early on into the morning of day 2, we unlocked our second platinum. This was a game I'd wanted to revisit for a long time now, and as a massive fan of the IP, I needed at least one platinum in this series, and that was Resistance Retribution. One of my favorite games on the PSP. I played this game religiously when I was 12 years old, especially the online. I hadn't played this game since I was 12 though, so I wasn't sure how the game would hold up, especially control-wise, given it was designed around one analog stick, but this was a pure treat. I loved revisiting this game, and it just proved to me even more that what I've been saying is true. Give me more of this franchise. It controls a little wonky, but I got used to that PSP control style pretty quickly, and just enjoyed the ride through this alternate World War II timeline fighting against the Chimera, which I've missed so much. In terms of the platinum, this is what I'd call a gimme, and by that I mean play and beat the game and the platinum is yours. The toughest part seems to be getting used to the controls, I think, as this is a surprisingly uncommon platinum. Destroy the chrysalis and rain. Retribution paid! But after revisiting Resistance Retribution, I had the itch to do the same with another franchise that we haven't seen in far too long, that is also one of my favorites from PlayStation, and that was to platinum Twisted Metal. Twisted Metal Black was my most played game in the series, but I remember versing my dad and uncles in Twisted Metal 1 and 2 on the PS1 as a kid as well. I don't remember playing this one much solo though, so that was a first, and you know what? Excusing some PS1 janky textures that can hurt the eyes and some slippery driving, this was a game I had a blast with as well. I haven't played any Twisted Metal games in a long time, probably not long after the PS3 game released, so just getting back to these characters and the simplicity of driving around, chaotically destroying any vehicles that stand in your way, as of course my favorite character, Mr. Grimm. Yeah, this was a special one. In terms of the platinum, another pretty straightforward one, but with some level specific Easter eggs as well as trophies for beating the game with every character, which I didn't do from the start with every character because I'm on the clock and, well, at a certain point the magic wears off. I wanted to still remember the game fondly, so by using this code when selecting a combatant, I skipped to the final area with most characters and beat the game that way. I'm sure some people will get upset by this fact, but hey, it is what it is. Captain's Lament, that's obviously for winning with Roadkill. And Twisted Champion. That was a lot of fun to revisit. I'm glad I came back to this one, because I remember trying to revisit Twisted Metal maybe a couple of years ago, and I was like, oh, the controls are arse, I'm not doing this. Once I got used to them, and like this screen flickering, yeah, that was good fun. Our first missed day, but it was for good reason. It was time to play something a little longer. Back-to-back nostalgia platinums had me feeling like I needed to experience something completely new. Finally play a game that I'd always seen but never actually picked up and played despite the praise. It was finally time to play and platinum Life is Strange True Colors. I've never played any of the Life is Strange games before, but I figured True Colors would be a great test to see if the series is something I'd enjoy playing more of. So what did I think? Yeah, True Colors was a special experience. Probably one of the most unforgettable games I played the entire challenge. I love the art style. The story is a slow burn in episode 1, but it sets up the rest of the game perfectly. The characters are all really well written. The themes and unique ways of telling these character stories through Alex and her powers was amazing. In particular, how the game visualizes different emotions and conditions, and the twists and turns paired with your decisions. It all just made for an experience that still to this day is on my mind. I want to see what I could have done differently and what character stories I missed learning and shaping more. I did not expect to enjoy this game much, if at all, which is why I avoided the Life is Strange games for so long, but now I can't wait to experience more from this series. In terms of the platinum, all the trophies are centered around the 5 collectibles in each episode. So this isn't a play and platinum type of game like most Telltale games are, for instance, but outside of a couple of collectibles, these are pretty natural to find just by having a quick look around in the episodes. The only promise is the adventure. Haven Maven. That was incredible. Oh my good lord. I'm probably going to play another Life is Strange game later in the year. Now, especially. You got some lofty expectations to live up to. That was insane. I love that. We had time to platinum one more game today though, and the best part about challenges like this is it's the best excuse to play and platinum some indie games. And that game today was The Gardens Between. This is one of those games that the art style has always interested me, but in terms of gameplay, I'm just not a big puzzle fan. However, I finally decided to give the game a go, and the best way I can describe this game is just simple. The game uses literally 2 buttons, and the puzzles just involve our 2 kid protagonists trying to make their way from point A to B, using time-bending mechanics and light puzzles to do so. As someone who is terrible at puzzles, this was definitely my speed. Not too tricky, but enough to make me use my old noodle, especially at the end. This is just a very nice game to play. It's a very pretty game, the story is expressed effectively through the world, and gameplay is a fun little brain teaser. Platinum-wise, it mainly centers around doing specific actions in certain levels or finding the hidden creature at the end of each world, but each level is easily replayable in case you miss something. A nice 2 or so hour experience, but nothing groundbreaking. The Gardens complete. Platinum Garden. Yeah, really, that was a really sweet game. Nice simple puzzle game. Just the one platinum today, but trust me, it was a good one. I was still in an indie game mood, but this time it was a game I was very familiar with and is actually one of my wife's favorite games, and that is Untitled Goose Game. Now right off the bat, I don't have a lot of footage to work with here because of the pub level speedrun that had me hit my desk so hard my hard drive jumped up and corrupted the footage. But Goose Game is one of my favorite indies just on pure fun factor. You play as a goose and your sole objective is to be a menace to this town. It's simple but hilariously effective and a game I've spent a good amount of time with beforehand. Because of that experience, I knew that I could get this platinum and pretty damn quickly too, as the toughest parts are the speedrun trophies. You have to complete all the tasks in an area before the church bell rings, which is about 7 minutes real time. However, you can pair both the speedrun and basic level trophies together and cut down your time significantly, which is why I managed to get the platinum in just over 3 hours. Don't get me wrong though, this can be an aggravating platinum, as goofy as it may seem. Thank you for playing our video game. Whew. And a secret prize. Okay, that was by far the most rage-inducing platinum we've done so far, but time-wise, very, very good. As I said, the goal was to have a good mix of platinums and money saved, which meant eventually I'd have to start tackling some longer games. So what better way to start than to finally platinum the only Insomniac Spider-Man game I haven't done yet. Miles Morales. Now, Miles Morales is a game I do enjoy. In fact, there's some aspects I think are better than the other 2 games, but also things that are much worse, especially with the shorter runtime. But there was one trophy in particular that annoyed me to the point of avoiding the platinum for so long, and I'll be honest, I still don't like it at all. Yes, I'm talking New Game Plus. They locked behind 3 skills, 4 gadget upgrades and 1 new suit that is trash, by the way, behind New Game Plus, and outside of that there's nothing worth having to play through the whole game again for. Thankfully it is a short game at maybe 4 hours for that second playthrough, just beelining it through the story, but still, it's just padding. It's there to extend the game just a bit longer because 10 hours would have looked rough for an almost $100 game. Outside of New Game Plus though, this was an experience I did have a lot of fun with to get 100%. I really like Miles and his cast of characters. I love the Christmas vibe, the difference in combat and web swinging between Pete and Miles, and the story of learning to be comfortable as Spider-Man. I think it's a great time. The platinum is also a lot of fun, a good mix of combat, story, collectible, and 100% trophies. I really just can't stand needless New Game Plus playthroughs, and this is as needless as it gets. Plus, it doesn't let you skip the cutscenes, which again, straight padding. Just a sour way to end what is otherwise a quality time. Oh, good. Plus. What was with that delay, man? Be yourself. The Miles Morales Platinum Trophy. And that's me. I have all the Insomniac Spider-Man Platinums now. After Miles Morales, I was still in the mood for something open world, and since most Ubisoft games are on PS Plus, that's where I looked next for Platinum number 8. Assassin's Creed Liberation. Liberation is one of the few Assassin's Creed games I simply have never even touched, which is weird because when it was released, I was still in my peak Assassin's Creed fandom arc. Regardless, I'd never played Liberation, and I wanted to see what the game was like, especially after finally being in the mood to platinum an Assassin's Creed game after the Ezio Marathon last year. So what did I think of Liberation? Honestly, I really enjoyed my time here. Don't get me wrong, it's obvious this was a portable entry in the series, especially in terms of the story and voice performances, which I thought were the weakest element here. However, there is a lot to like here, like the setting of New Orleans, or the persona shifting from lady, assassin, and slave, and how they play differently, but also have their own stories. It's nothing spectacular, but it definitely scratched that Assassin's Creed itch for me, and I would really like to see the persona system make a return because it is awesome. Platinum wise, if you've played this era of Assassin's Creed, you know the drill. Get all the viewpoints, find all the collectibles, which thankfully isn't too many, but some are locked behind certain personas, and completing all these side missions. It's what you expect from Ubisoft grinds, and I don't mind it, I just have to be in the right mood for it. Overall, I was really glad I gave the game a chance because I hadn't heard amazing things, but if you're a fan, it's worth a shot. Yes! Thief! Oh my god, this platinum took me way longer than I thought it was going to. Also, why is it Julius Caesar? Why? It's got nothing to do with Rome. I'm confused. This next game is from a series I've tried to get into many times. From consoles to handhelds over generations at this point, I've tried, and it's just never been an IP I've enjoyed enough to call myself a fan. But every time I see a new entry, I keep an eye on it, and this was such a game that recently, and by recently, I'm scripting these as I'm playing, so it's still early January, a game that recently got added to PS Plus, and that game is Sonic Frontiers. I grew up playing games like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Rayman, Ratchet & Clank, Jak and Daxter, Sly Cooper, you get the picture. I love those series, but Sonic just, for me, never hit the same. However, Frontiers really caught my eye at release, and I figured this challenge was about the best excuse I was going to get to finally play this game. So, did this game end up changing my mind? Hell yes, it did. Frontiers is awesome. The thing that's always been a stickler for me was the level design, especially in the 2D games, but here the star of the show is the open world zones. These were so much fun to explore, traverse, and fight in. I do have to be honest, the story and characters still do nothing for me. I didn't really care about why we were doing anything. I was just happy playing Metal Gear Rising Sonic because that's what this felt like to me, and it was dope. The supersonic fights to end a world are badass, the levels are good breaks to the open world grind, unlocking more of each world is so satisfying, and it is just a really fun game to play. Like, I just enjoyed my time with Sonic Frontiers from beginning to end, all 18 hours, and that goes for the platinum too. There's a lot to do on the 4 worlds, but a lot of it is optional. All you need for the platinum is to obviously gather the Chaos Emeralds for the story, find all the levels, find the character side stories, and fully reveal each map. You don't have to find all the music tracks or all the Cocos or every level specific currency. The things that were a slight grind was trying to find which enemies and guardians I was missing by the end, and to level up just doing a lot of fishing to stockpile levels, and we were good. But seriously, I don't know how this game is viewed by those in the Sonic fandom, but as someone who has never been a fan, I loved this game, and it made me want to try again with some of the other games in the series. Yes, let's go. Threats identified. Trophies completed. That's Sonic Frontiers Platinum Trophy. And I gotta say, as someone who doesn't really care for Sonic or like hasn't really gotten into the games as much as I've probably tried a fair few times, they've never been my cup of tea. This is that game that can get you into a series. This was great. Now, I know what you're thinking. Geez, 8 days to get another platinum, it must have been a doozy. And it is a decently long platinum for this type of challenge, but no. Remember when I said I knew I had to come out swinging? For one reason that will become obvious later in the video. Yeah, well, that reason happened a couple of weeks early. My wife and I welcomed our second son to the world. Obviously, before starting this challenge, I knew he'd probably be here in January, but he was due on the 28th, so I thought I had a bit more time. Regardless, he's a happy and healthy baby, mum is doing good, and luckily enough for me, baby is sleeping hours at a time, meaning this challenge continues, just with more game time looking like this. Anyway, that explains the time skip, but the challenge must go on. This next platinum again was the longest one so far, but it was a series I always wanted to try as someone who loves racing games, and I fear that won't be possible for too much longer with the original shutting down, and that is The Crew 2. Again, I love racing games. I grew up and continue to play Need for Speed, Gran Turismo, Burnout, Wipeout, Ridge Racer, MX vs ATV, Forza, and Dirt. I love racing, even though in reality I couldn't care less about cars. So The Crew has been a series that caught my attention, but for whatever reason I'd never tried, and since the original is no longer playable, who knows how much longer The Crew 2 would be around for either. So I finally booted up the game, and I have to be honest, initially I thought I just made a big mistake. Not because the game wasn't good or interesting, but because this game is massive. You have everything from cars, bikes, boats, and planes. You have street racing, drag racing, rally racing, boat and bike races, aerobatics, monster trucking, races across America. It's a huge game with a lot to do, and it can be overwhelming initially. Thankfully, the Platinum doesn't ask you to do all that. It's not asking us to 100% the game. Our main task is to complete 50% of each of the 4 rivals events. You can pick and choose which events you do, you just need to do half to get our story trophies. This is no quick step, that's a lot of events and you'll get most of the other trophies along that journey. There's definitely some grinds to this Platinum, some slogs through similar events, but as long as you try and mix it up which events you play, this can be a great racing game to add to your Platinum collection. All the vehicles control really well, the variety is here in spades, plenty of vehicles to choose from, always customizations to be made, and the scope of this game is just insane. It looks like a jack of all trades, master of none type game, but this really is some quality racing and makes me excited to check out Motorfest sometime soon as well. Also, shout out to Manuel for helping with the co-op trophies, I really appreciate it, and I can't wait for the true open world racing king to make its way to PlayStation later this year. Are you a god? Oh my, I'm so glad. You're the driver, baby. I really ended up enjoying this game quite a lot. It's been a while since I've like really dedicated a lot of time to a racing game, but the grind at the end is crazy. This felt like it was a lot longer than it actually was. But we move on. This next Platinum has been on my to-do list for almost 2 years now. Another series I really enjoy, though admittedly the previous games are more guilty pleasures than legitimately good games. However, I heard this entry was actually fantastic, and that is Dead Island 2. Back on the Xbox 360 and PS3, if a game had zombies in it, I was most likely going to play it. I don't know why, but I just had a blast with this genre, but probably around when Dying Light released was when I was properly burnt out on that style of game, and I haven't really played many since then. So jumping into Dead Island 2, I was a bit weary, hoping that burnout had worn off, because once I started, I was in for a good chunk of time. Thankfully, Dead Island 2 was so much fun, and felt like the perfect game for me to appreciate the zombie genre once again. The story feels like the Dead Island I know, very goofy, doesn't take itself too seriously, especially in the side content, and just overall a funny game with a good bit of intrigue, I might add. But that goofiness is paired with the goriest game I've played in a long time. I mean seriously, the amount of zombie death that can be experienced here and how detailed it is wild. All your weapons just feel like they shred zombies, they feel great to use, the impact is immediately noticeable, and it meant that I was never getting tired of my weapons because I wanted to see more new zombie demises. I will say, The guns are a bit too OP though. In terms of the platinum though, shout out to Papi for helping me with the co-op trophies. The big tasks are to complete 40 side missions and complete one tier of every challenge, which in the beginning can feel a little daunting because there is an absolute boatload of them to complete, but by the end of the story, you'll have most of these done already. Except for Ninja, that challenge can say hello to my hairy hole. No, but seriously, this was a really great platinum experience that for 90% of the journey is a natural get if you were planning to complete a majority of the side content anyways. However, because this is a PS Plus video, as I said, no extra purchases, so the DLC will have to wait, but I'm excited to get back to this one. The New Game Plus stuff, not so much, but the actual DLC stories, hell yeah. Go Bobcats. And who do you voodoo, bitch? That was yeah, probably another one. I'm not sure if it's the challenge or not, but getting into some of these games is the tough part. And then once I actually do, I'm like, okay, this is really good. I had a lot of fun with this one. After back-to-back longer platinum grinds and one massive grind still to go, I decided to finally knock out my PS2 platinum for this challenge, and this game is a certified classic. I'm talking about Jak and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy. Now technically, I broke a rule of not stacking platinums as I already platinumed this game back in 2020. However, with the recent PS5 version, the trophy list made some changes, so it's not the exact same. Instead of 39 trophies, there's 26, and that just makes this a whole different game basically. Look, that's the loophole I'm going with to revisit one of my all-time favorite games, okay? I love the Jak series. When I think of the PS2, it's one of the first games that comes to mind, and my favorite is the first game. I just love the simplicity of a good collectathon platformer, and that's what the Precursor Legacy does so well. Going through each area, collecting all the Precursor orbs and power cells, and moving on to the next unique area, pair that with the great characters and interesting story, it's just an absolute pleasure to revisit this game each and every time I do so. Plus, I've 100%ed this game at least a dozen times before, so it makes an already short platinum just a bit shorter. All you need for this platinum is to 100% each area, and the twist for this trophy list is to do some miscellaneous tasks in the levels, like destroy some barrels or get to the end of a level without jumping too much. It's different, but all simple to achieve. It's a straightforward platinum, but it's a must-have in my opinion because this game is worth experiencing everything within it. Makes me miss when Naughty Dog had a bit more fun with their games. They're probably gone, right? And we did it, Dax. And that's Jak and Daxter's platinum. Man, every time I replay this game, it is so goddamn good. This one flew by. And it runs so much better than the PS4 version. The original PS4 version, I don't know if it's still the same now. Less than a week remaining in this challenge, and I saved my biggest test for last. But I didn't know it would be so stressful going in. Remember, one of my rules was to platinum one of the 3 monthly games. Yeah, well, my options were Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, which I'd already gotten some trophies in, and the Stanley Parable, which I do want to play, but wouldn't add much to my cash total for the time investment. So I decided this would be the perfect excuse to finally play a game that was one of the many continuous laughing stocks of 2024. Yes, I'm talking about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I am a big fan of Rocksteady's previous games, all the way back to Urban Chaos, but of course, more so for the Arkham games. Still the best superhero games, hands down. With that being said, I never had much faith in the Suicide Squad once I learned it was going the live service direction, and going by the reviews, I was right to have my doubts. However, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't still curious. I mean, I like the characters of the Suicide Squad. I think going after the Justice League is a pretty cool premise, and more than anything, this is sadly the last Arkham game that the great Kevin Conroy is going to be a part of. So the fact that the game was free was a guilt-free way to try the game. The risk though with this challenge was if I hated the game, I had to keep playing it anyway until I got the platinum. But I decided to risk it. I just hope I left myself enough time to platinum the game because according to PSN profiles, this one was going to be a 50-hour grind. Yeah, so turns out 50 hours is a long ass time. Who would have thought, huh? So after all the reviews, the backlash, the disappointment, what did I think personally of the Suicide Squad? Well, this is a game I surprisingly had a lot of fun with, and also absolutely, utterly loathed. There's issues with the story, but I enjoy the characters and most of the campaign. Each character feels well balanced and fun to play, the gameplay is oddly satisfying, and I think a big reason is because seeing numbers fly off enemies scratches my tism just right. But once you get past the credits and into the end game and seasonal content, yikes, does this game show how little effort Rocksteady put into the live service aspect of this game, which for this platinum is where we're going to be spending a whole lot of time. You need to complete all the side character missions, you need to reach level 30 with all 4 characters, find all the Riddler trophies and complete all these AR missions, which thankfully are far less than usual, reach mastery level 20 on the endgame missions, which you get by just replaying missions over and over and over again, equip 3 tier 3 Bane items, which you get from those endgame missions once you reach rank 60 on the season, which only goes up when you play missions on new mastery levels, and to top it all off, reaching level 30 isn't enough, you also need to reach a squad level of 50, because why the hell not? I could turn my brain off for some of this grind, again have fun with the campaign and some of the usual Arkham cleanup, but the squad level grind mixed with the mastery level grind mixed with the season rank to be able to unlock the tier 3 gear and it's still being RNG, my god, was it brutal. This platinum, and really the game in general, is just the perfect example of not respecting the player's time. This is not a difficult platinum to get. I mean, it was stressing me out because I'm on a time crunch and thought squad level 50 meant once I had a character hit level 30 and 20, I'd be good, until I realized that the game wanted me to grind 170 levels total. But again, not a difficult platinum and not an abysmal game. But the live service aspect that is so clearly phoned in is embarrassing and clearly gives no shits about wasting your time to try and boost player attention. This is a game that through PS Plus I do recommend at least giving the campaign a shot, but leave it be after that. Thankfully, despite misunderstanding a trophy, at 10 PM on the final day, I finally platinumed the Suicide Squad and the PS Plus challenge was over. Yes, alright. Trial by Blood, that's level 50 with the squad. And the beginning of the end. And yeah, I think that's a pretty fitting platinum to get for the end of this PS Plus challenge. With the month coming to a close, and before jumping into my final thoughts on this challenge, and of course revealing how much money we ended up saving, I wanted to give out some platinum awards for the good, the bad, and the interesting. First of all, the most common platinum I achieved goes to the Gardens Between, which doesn't really surprise me. It definitely was the easiest platinum I completed the whole month, coming in at a 16.4% completion rate. The rarest platinum I achieved is no real shocker either, but it's the Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League. Again, not a difficult game, but a grind for sure, sitting at a 0.6% completion rate. The surprise hit of the whole challenge, that for me is a close tie between Sonic Frontiers and Life is Strange True Colors. True Colors was just a gaming experience I won't soon forget. I'm still thinking about this game as of writing this, and it's now February. It was phenomenal. Sonic Frontiers, as I said, never been a big Sonic fan, but this made me want to keep trying because I was obsessed with this game too. Best Retro Platinum, between Twisted Metal, Jak and Daxter, and Resistance Retribution. I loved revisiting all three, but Jak and Daxter is just too damn special. This is my second time platinuming this game, and I'm down to do it again. It's amazing. Most challenging platinum, if we're talking mentally, it is Suicide Squad, but in terms of actual difficulty, give me Untitled Goose Game all day. A short yet challenging game that had me genuinely tweaking by far the most out of any of these games. But boy was it satisfying to unlock the platinum. Worst platinum, obviously, goes to Suicide Squad, so that saves the best platinum of the month. And that is surprisingly challenging because most of these games were so much fun, but again, I have to go with the game that stuck with me the longest. Life is Strange True Colors. I truly cannot recommend this game enough. So after a month of just playing PS Plus games, how many platinums did we get and how much money did we save? We ended up with 13 platinums for the month, with those games saving us a total of $750.34 Australian. That's just under 4 years worth of PS Plus subscription and an average of $57 per platinum. Here's the breakdown of the money per game, with Assassin's Creed Liberation and Jak and Daxter including the collection price, since you cannot purchase those individually on PS5. So that's my score to beat if you're game to have a go. But what's the feel-good message at the end of all this? Well, first is, if you try, you can save a lot of money with these subscriptions. I mean, to be fair, I would never buy these games at full price to begin with, being a bargain shopper, but still, the savings can be had. There are so many games on offer for all corners of gamers. Some I'd love to platinum in the future, but either were too long or money-wise weren't worth it for this challenge. I mean, something like Fallout 4 is $25 new for a platinum that is estimated to take 60 hours. You have to be more strategic than that. However, more than anything, this challenge really reaffirmed to me that at least PS Plus Premium just isn't worth it most of the time. Personally, I'd just rather pay for a month every year, get my money's worth like I just did, and then some, and go back to basic. I've got too many games I've actually purchased on my backlog as is that I need to play, so maybe I'll see you this time next year to do it all again and see what PlayStation added in a year's time. Thank you all so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment below if you think you can beat my score, or if I should do this sort of challenge with Game Pass next. Don't forget to check out my second channels, Mayor Plays and Mayor Reviews. Pretty self-explanatory what those channels are all about. Shout out to the channel members for that extra level of support, and special thanks to the members of the Bear Club, JNT Papi, Nugget, Darkwolf, Scott Unwin, Steel Vanguard, NPO Crusader, Lug Knights, It's Grey J, Kuzma, Pathcast, Jarvis McGee, and Safado. Thank you all, and I'll catch you in the next one.